Minnesota at Buffalo, a huge game. I think that this is Minnesota's chance to prove that they are what we call legit. Me being a Green Bay fan, I will say that, hearing about the Vikings all year and then watching their games, I'm like, they haven't really shown that they are just an outright dominant team. Sure, they're winning games, but they've, come in close on so many games against teams that it's like you'd think a 7-1 team would just have a handle on and that sort of thing. And then you have Buffalo. Obviously losing, last week against the Jets. The Jets, I think, really proven their first division matchup and that sort of thing of the year. I think that the Jets have a phenomenal defense. The other thing that I guess I've heard that doesn't sound really good for the Bills is I guess Josh Allen's injury. I've seen a lot of mixed things, and it's like Josh Allen, is just such a good player, such a phenomenal arm, a big arm, and such in his ability to run and be so hard to tackle. He just brings everything to the table that you want in a QB. The one thing I'll say about him this year is that a lot of interceptions. I know against my Packers, a couple of weeks ago, it's like he threw 2 picks against Jair, who obviously is one of the best cover corners in the league. But it's like I've seen some things from Allen where it's like, gotta cut out those interceptions. But then, you look at the Vikings. The Vikings, to me, they rely on one guy, and that is Justin Jefferson. I think Jefferson is a phenomenal player. I understand that you want to lean on him, and he's got, he's only behind Tyreek now because Tyreek has had, a couple of monster weeks. And then, opposite, you obviously have Diggs, the guy you traded and able to get Jefferson on the other side. And he's just been doing phenomenal with Josh Allen. The chemistry is really good. And just overall, this offense works really well for Buffalo. And I think with the Vikings, I think it's their strength as well as their weakness, where it's like Jefferson is doing most of the work. And they're really just kind of feeding him the ball, as much as they can, which I understand. But it's like I've seen games where Jefferson just kind of disappears for a little bit of time, after starting, really strong. Like against the Bears, I remember Jefferson was carving him up, like 10 receptions in the first half. Then they shut him down and they weren't able to put on points, and the Bears caught up in the game. And I'm just going to say this, Buffalo's defense is way better than the Bears is. There's no ands ifs about it, and that type of thing. So looking at this game, I think that Buffalo, their pass rush, they can definitely rattle Kirk Cousins. And when Kirk Cousins gets rattled, he throws picks. I know only six interceptions on the year, not terrible. But halfway through the year, you're set to have, over 10 picks if this, stays consistent. And, Von Miller's going to be breathing down your neck all game, along with the other pass rushers on the Bills, because they obviously have, Ed Oliver. And it's just, you really don't go up against a tougher team defensively than the Bills, I think, in this league. Maybe the Eagles. The Eagles do have a really good defense. But it's like, looking at this, Buffalo obviously, kind of on the hot seat. They retain their number 1 spot from New York because they have one less loss only. If they lose this week, and New York obviously could lose this week, but I wouldn't count on it. And it's like you also have Miami breathing down your neck. And then New England is even, still in the mix in a very tough AFC East division. Probably the toughest at this point in the league. And then you got, the NFC North. Minnesota's obviously got a really good hold on the division right now. Green Bay and Chicago, they're both 3-6. Detroit 2-6. So really nothing threatening Minnesota from winning the division. But you do have teams like the Cowboys that you think about that are, because they're playing the Packers this week, They are, a lot of people are saying that it's going to be a very easy game for them against the Packers because they're loaded offense. And, you suffered a lot of injuries last week, on the Packers. So they're, everyone's expecting the Cowboys to win and that sort of thing. Sorry about that. And yeah, so the hot seat is on the Vikings because you don't want to lose the number 2 seed, and you still can compete for the number 1 seed with Philadelphia because you're only one game. I mean, you're 2 games behind because you lost to them, obviously, but you want to win this game, and the pressure is on the Vikings to finally beat another team that people consider like a contender. This is like their repeat performance against, the Eagles, an Eagles caliber team, because the Bills, I think, are just as good, if not maybe better, because of the veteran leadership, and obviously their QB's better. But like I said, who knows about Josh Allen? If he doesn't play, I really don't know what this team is going to do. Like, he's had, a very phenomenal season, and he's obviously questionable for this game. Looking at the injury report, I guess, you only got 2 guys out on the Vikings, Dalvin Tomlinson and then Cameron Dantzler, both defensive players. Not good for them, Cameron Dantzler. I mean, I do think if Allen isn't available, that you lean on Singletary, to play and carry the load, because he is a very good running back. And the only reason why he doesn't play as much is because you got, an MVP caliber quarterback in Josh Allen. And then, I mean, I guess you have Jordan Poyer's still out, but they've been playing without him for a few games. I guess, Kerry Elam probably out, bad ankle injury. And Tremaine Edmonds, I guess, you really want him against a team that has the likes of Dalvin Cook, one of your best tacklers. But, Greg Rousseau being out, kind of unfortunate. I still think that the Bills have a really good pass rush without Rousseau. But, overall, a pretty healthy team here. And then it's like, if you're missing Dalvin Tomlinson, your stout D tackle against the run, Singletary, can have a heyday because of that injury. And then, I mean, I guess you're looking at the matchup with the stats. I mean, obviously the Bills are, the best defense in football, I think, with this. Or, at least top 2, And then you look at, this right here. They've had a lot of passing yards. And it's like 300 passing yards, even without, Allen. I still expect that number to be like in the, the 200s. And it's like a better running game, with arguably, probably a running back that it's like not the same skill set as Cook, but, probably close to the margin and equal skill level and ability. And then you have, the Vikings defense, obviously way worse. 20.1 points a game isn't that bad. It's better than what I would have expected from the Vikings. But they have had times where it's like they give up points to give up leads, and that always worries me. And especially against a team like the Bills that have so much short game weapons and so many ways to expose you, that I think that Minnesota's going to struggle against these underthrown routes and that sort of thing, and just whatever else. And I mean, like I said, the Vikings, the only team that they arguably beat, that was any good here, and I'm not going to say Miami because, they didn't have their QB2 play in this game, was Arizona. And it's like they handled Arizona, but Arizona still isn't even like the cream of the crop on any team. And, they almost lost to New Orleans. They almost lost to Chicago. And it's like Miami, substitute, quarterback that's a rookie. Washington, they almost lost to. Washington held a lead until late in the game. The Vikings didn't really do as well. And Washington has what I would say a very similar, not defense, but D-line, where it's like they rush the passer very well. And it's like if Kirk Cousins, when he was getting rattled against the Eagles, he just, made a ton of mistakes. And I think that, the Buffalo Bills defense can definitely do the same thing. So I'm not counting the Vikings out in this game because I think that's just foolish. I do think that they're, they're still a pretty good team, and they've, obviously, come out on top, which is tough to do week in and week out, but I need to see them have the ability to do that type of game against, a Super Bowl type contender to prove they are legit, on offense, and a team that has obviously a way better defense than any they've played this year. But I'm going to take Buffalo. And I mean, even if Allen doesn't play or he plays and he's very limited to, I guess, some short throws and not that many deep passes, I still think that Buffalo is going to win this game. I think that they're going to really match up well against Jefferson, maybe limit him or make it really difficult on him. Because it's like, well, the Vikings have Thielen and, some other players, and obviously they picked up Hawkinson from the Lions, which I think they did to kind of, take some of the pressure off of Jefferson, because I think that they've realized that Jefferson, while he's an amazing talent and an amazing player, he does go quiet some games where it's like, because he's just the only elite viable option on this team anymore. But yeah, I'm going to take Bills, and I'm going to take the Bills by 3 points.